Hey up everyone, Magpie Gaming here, I hope you're all doing well. So recently I was asked by a viewer if I thought Starfield would work on the Steam Deck, and I did a little research into the subject and I seemed to come up with more questions than answers. And taking another look at the subject today, it seems to leave me even more confused. I've been prompted to look into the subject again due to recent news about The Remnant 2, which is a game that's recently released and received full verified status on the Steam Deck, even though there has been a slew of complaints that the game simply doesn't work very well on the Steam Deck. So I've decided to take a deeper look at the overall verification process for games on the Steam Deck, and it doesn't seem like it's very robust at all. So for context, there are 3 levels of verification on the Steam Deck, starting with unsupported, when the game simply will not work for various reasons, then playable, where the game will work but possibly certain parts of it don't work as intended, and then verified, where the game is fully supported and works as intended on the Steam Deck. The problem I have from my initial research is that I wrongly thought that verification would be a series of tests on the actual performance of the game, but it seems that this isn't the case, and as long as the game meets some basic requirements, it will be passed as verified and indeed fully supported on the Steam Deck. So what does a game need to do to be given a verified badge by Valve? There are 3 categories that it must perfectly meet, which are input, display and seamlessness. Looking at input, this is being broken down into 3 subcategories, which are controller support, controller glyphs and text input. For controller input, the game must support Steam Deck's physical controls and not need any adjustment in-game to make this work. For controller glyphs, the game's on-screen controls must match the Steam Deck's, or at least match Xbox button names, although Steam do have an input API that developers can use to quickly and easily implement this in-game. And for text input, the game must have an on-screen keyboard that players can use with the Steam Deck's controllers, or developers can use the text entry API from Steam. For display, this is broken down into 3 subcategories as well: resolution support, default configuration and text legibility. For resolution support, the game must run at a resolution supported by Steam Deck, and the native and recommended resolution is 1280 by 800 or 1280 by 720. For default configuration, the game must ship with a default configuration on the deck that results in a playable frame rate. And for text legibility, the text on the screen must be readable from a distance of 12 inches or 30 centimeters, and the font must not fall below 9 pixels in height. And lastly, we have seamlessness, which is broken down into 2 subcategories, which are no device compatibility warnings and launchers. For the first of those categories, no device compatibility warnings, the game must not present the user with any warnings that any part of the Steam Deck is unsupported, i.e. GPU, CPU, etc. And for launchers, any game with a launcher must meet all previous requirements, so it must have full navigability, have clear readable text and not give any warnings. So when we look at that list, there really is only one criteria that will actually really matter in terms of performance, and that is the default configuration in the display category. But it is a very loose requirement, as no actual minimum FPS requirement is stated, although from the digging around that I've done, it seems that 30 FPS is the minimum the game needs to get a verified status. But this will be achieved in most games by turning graphics quality right down to bare minimum, which is what seems to have happened in the case of The Remnant 2. This is of course a fate I don't want for Starfield on the Steam Deck, but from what I'm seeing, it looks like that could be the case. I believe it will get full verified status on the Steam Deck though, as I can't see it not meeting any of the criteria. It will of course run at the needed resolution, the controller support will be baked in since it's also going to be on the Xbox, and I'm assuming as long as the graphics quality is turned right down, then it will meet the default configuration requirement too. Some of the information on this subject has come from a video I watched on a channel called Steam Deck Gaming. I'll put a link in the description down below so that you can go and watch the same video as me, and they note that the verified status seems to be given to all large titles recently and seems to be more of a marketing exercise, and that rather than a game being properly tested against Valve's requirements for verification, it seems to be loosely applied per title depending on who at Valve is doing the testing, as they show examples of inconsistencies in the testing process in their video. I'm quite surprised to see things are done this way, as Steam Decks aren't cheap and you really need to know if a game works well on the device before you purchase it, but it seems to be left down to more community driven feedback as to whether this is the case or not. Now, community driven feedback is no bad thing, but not everyone will know where to look, and they will just see the verified status on the Steam store, which only gives you the very basic information. One good site I've found to go to know just how compatible a game is on the Steam Deck is Proton Database. I'll put a link in the description down below. That site will give you a much clearer idea of how well a certain title will work on Proton, which is the layer of software that runs over the tops of Linux and allows Windows games to be played on the Steam Deck. It's interesting to note that there are currently 10 10,500 games with playable status, and of those 3,500 have full verified status. The site does list lots of titles though which are classed as unsupported but actually work just fine on the Steam Deck. But as the Steam Deck Gaming on YouTube showed, there are games with full verified status which don't work at all, so doing some research is a must before purchasing a game on the Steam Deck. Now, after the deeper research I've done on this subject, I'm now pretty sure that Starfield will get full verified status on the Steam Deck, but the real thing we want to know is just how well it will perform on the device, and for that we're just going to have to wait until the full release. If anybody out there has a Steam Deck and is thinking of getting Starfield, I would advise caution right now. Wait a few days for people to get some testing done and then make your decision based on that. I will of course be watching during the launch for such testing to be completed, and I'll update you guys when I know more. So to summarise this video, looking into the whole verification process on the Steam Deck has surprised me at just how loosely based it is. It just needs to meet a couple of criteria which are pretty easy for developers to put in there, and then it'll get full verified status, when really what gamers want to know is what the performance is like. The Steam Deck is for all intents and purposes a mini PC. You know you're not going to get the performance of a big setup, but you expect a certain level of performance in every game. And looking at the detail in the Remnant 2, I'm looking at it and it's like a PlayStation 1 game. It really doesn't look good for a Steam Deck, which is an expensive little console basically. So yeah, I'm going to keep a close eye on this. Like I say, I think Starfield will just breeze through the verification process. I'm surprised if no games get through this verification process because it just seems so loosely based on things. But yeah, I'll keep an eye on this and keep you guys updated as often as I can. With that being said, thank you very much for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Stay safe, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care.